Hi everyone, this is Matt. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about medical writing because I think this is a profession that is a bit misunderstood. So, the first time I was introduced to medical writing was when I was a PhD student. I went to one of those careers beyond academia seminars, and there was a medical writer there, and he was talking about his profession. And he didn't sell it to me. So, I moved on. And then I wrote my PhD thesis, I wrote a few papers, a few grants, and I realized I really enjoy writing. I enjoy putting all of my thoughts together in one place, looking at all of my data, analyzing it, writing what to do in the future, and just honing the text, making it as concise and as clear as possible, which I found very satisfying. So when I decided to leave academia, and you can find out about this more here, I thought, well, medical writing should be something that I perhaps should consider. So I did. And I found out that medical writing industry was worth $3.5 billion in 2021 and is going to be worth $10 billion by 2030, meaning that it's growing over 10% a year every year. So there is clearly a massive need for medical writing. It's a massive industry. It's only going to get bigger, so it was worth to looking more into it. And what I found out that medical writing is actually an umbrella term for essentially any writing activity that falls within healthcare industry. So most of the medical writers you meet will work for medical communication agencies or medcoms. Now, within medcoms, you usually find two departments. You would have educational medical writers and you would have marketing medical writers. Now, if you work within educational medical writing, you'll be writing book chapters, papers, publications, online articles, maybe presentations and posters, all to educate pharmacists, nurses, physicians, and general public about new drugs, new indications for all the drugs, about new facts about old diseases, about new diseases. So anything really you could think that falls within medicine and healthcare industry is something that you could be writing about. And also, let's not forget about medical devices. You will also write about medical devices. So there is so much there. You will always deal with the newest and most exciting research. So, if there is a little field that you find particularly interesting. So, for example, you really like neuroscience. Well, you could specialize within neuroscience department for a medcom agency, and you will end up reading so much about neuroscience and then writing about this field. Maybe if you like writing book chapters or publications, you could specialize to only write publications or only write book chapters. So there's a lot of room for growth there, and definitely a lot of room to accommodate for specific preferences. However, what's really interesting is that every project will be different because every drug will be different, every disease will be different. So this will always keep you on your toes. And because this is not a highly regulated field, you can get very creative as long as you're clear and concise and the target audience gets the point. On the other hand, if you don't get to write educational medical writing, you will write marketing medical writing. And this is to do with newly launched drugs. So you will write, for example, sales materials for newly launched drugs, or you will write information for sales reps, or just posters and presentations to advertise new drugs. So again, you can get very creative as long as it's clear, concise, and catches the eye. It's marketing after all. You can do whatever you want. So this is a big chunk of medical writing. However, on the other hand, there is something called regulatory medical writing, and this deals with more formal parts of drug discovery and medical devices. So I am a regulatory medical writer and I work for a contract research organization. So my company runs clinical trials. As a regulatory medical writer, you could also be working for big pharma, and we also have these type of writers. And what we do is we design clinical trials. Okay, we write the protocols for clinical trials, and then later we analyze the data and describe it all together and send it for submissions to regulatory bodies like FDA in the US, for example. And if we convince FDA that the trial was done appropriately, that the data is reliable and safe, and if the data is good enough, FDA will decide to maybe start another trial, to go to move from phase 1 to phase 2 and so on. So there is a lot here to talk about actually, because when you get a drug that hasn't been approved yet, or maybe hasn't even been tested in humans yet, and you're designing a trial to test this drug for the first time ever in humans, that's very exciting. There's a lot at stake here. So we are thinking here about checking the safety of this drug first. So potentially, how often this drug should be administered, at what doses, then is it safe for healthy people? Is it safe for the patients? Is it safe for children? Is it safe for elderly? Would it be safe for people that have, for example, heart problems or liver, kidney problems, and so on? So there's so much to consider. And now every drug you will work with will be different, very different. Will be for a different indication, will hit a different part of biology, and it will have different side effects. So you have to consider all of this and design a trial that is safe and has the statistical power. So as you design the trial, you need to talk to physicians, and you also need to talk to statisticians about the statistical power. You might need to talk to subject matter experts as well to learn more about the drug or learn more about the experiments that should be done. So there is so much here to think about, and you actually end up spending half of your time thinking how to do the trial, and then you spend the other half of the time writing. And then the writing itself is actually not as much as you would expect it to be, because it's such a highly regulated field. We have templates and everything is structured, and we need to follow the structure and provide certain content for FDA and so on. So you don't write as much as you think you would, but is the design and analysis part that takes a lot of time. So every day is different. It's very exciting, and also, by training, I should be working within DNA damage response, so oncology or neuroscience. But I get to work with drugs for any indication, might be cardiovascular, might be immuno, might be addiction drugs, addiction diseases, and just literally anything. So it's very entertaining, and intellectually it's very entertaining. There's so much to think about. Also, medical writers are paid quite well. So your starting salary could be in the 30s, and at the top of the ladder, after 10-15 years, you could be earning £80,000, and even more if you decide to leave a permanent contract and work on short-term contracts. So for example, on 12-month contracts, then you could be paid even £120,000, £140,000. All of these are, all of this that I just mentioned is in the UK. But if you worked in the US, for example, the salaries are much higher. I think the median salary for a medical writer in the US is 100K. And you could be potentially even earning up to $150,000, $160,000 at the top of the ladder. So it is a quite well-paid job, and it is very interesting. It's stimulating, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone who likes analyzing science and likes writing. Now, if you like writing in terms of being very creative, then definitely educational or marketing medical writing might be better for you. But if you don't care so much about the creative part of writing, but you care much more about analyzing new data. And it's not just that we deal with, the research, the information that is on the very edge of knowledge. We're talking about the drugs that actually have a potential to help people in a few years' time. So it's very, very exciting. There's a lot at stake. Um, and every day you learn about something new because this is completely new research, new findings. And, these are usually findings that are not published in papers. Everything is intellectual property there. So you get to learn about things no one else knows about as of now. So it's really, really cool. And it's well paid as well, in my opinion. So altogether, I would definitely recommend it. And in the next episode, I will talk to you more about the interview process for medical writing, especially for regulatory medical writing. And if you benefit from this content, please consider subscribing to the channel because it keeps me motivated and it tells me what I should talk about in the next episode. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.